Hello again, everybody. This is Steve Kallas, speaking of sports, and we're here today to talk about the two upcoming NFC divisional games this weekend. Of course, it's the Seattle Seahawks going into Green Bay to play the Green Bay Packers. Packers are a 4-point favorite. Seattle, as you know, just beat the Eagles last week, 17-9. But there's going to be a lot going on. Seattle's been great on the road. A lot of people are picking Seattle to win straight up. They're 8-1 on the road, which is incredible in the National Football League, including a road victory in Philadelphia, coming from Seattle to Philadelphia to beat the Eagles. Now, you know the Eagles were undermanned. Carson Wentz got a concussion or was in concussion protocol after like 2 series. But the key to the game, or one of the keys to the game, is Jadeveon Clowney, who was actually the guy who had that head-to-head contact with Wentz. It's been a little bit controversial. I totally agree he didn't mean to hurt him, but there was also head-to-head contact on the quarterback, even though he was a runner. After the game, they said it was incidental contact. That's ridiculous, because Carson Wentz left the game and never came back. So be that as it may, Clowney is playing for a contract. He's a free agent. He is the best pass rusher they have, and they've had a terrible pass rush this year. So one of the keys to the game is, can they get a pass rush on Aaron Rodgers? And, you know, frankly, that's going to be pretty hard. Rodgers had an okay year this year, certainly not an Aaron Rodgers year, but they got a bye. They're at home. They have Devontae Adams, who lit up Seattle last year when they played, 10 receptions for 166 yards. They also have Aaron Jones, who has turned into a top NFL running back. So it's going to be a pretty interesting game. I kind of like the Packers at home. Seattle isn't that good against the run. They're not that good against the pass. They're 27th against the pass. They're 22nd against the run. The Packers have a very good runner, and they have an excellent quarterback. So I think that's kind of the part of the game where I think Green Bay clearly has the edge. Now, defensively, the Packers, they need Alexander and King to play really well in the defensive backfield. You know, Russell Wilson's a magician. Every time you count him out, he turns around and somehow wins a game. I'll never forget the first game of the year. They beat the Bengals 21-20 in Seattle, and I was like, wow, Seattle can't be that good this year. And then you wake up, they're in the playoffs. They've already won one road playoff game. They can clearly win another. But I like the Packers in this game. I think they're just going to be too much at home. Now, they have a lot of inexperienced guys. This is not like a veteran Packers team where they've had a ton of guys in the playoffs. The coach is a rookie coach, so it's his first playoff game as a head coach. And, you know, Pete Carroll has a lot of experience. Russell Wilson has a lot of experience. And, again, a lot of people are picking Seattle to do what they do. They're 8-1 on the road. Why not 9-1? But I think it's going to be you know, I don't know what kind of effect beast mode's going to have. Their running game had stopped, and they got beast mode back, and, you know, he was just okay. Russell Wilson was the leading rusher last week. So he's really the whole team, and I think you have to try and focus on him. The Green Bay defense is pretty good, so I think Green Bay is going to win this game. I like the Packers over Seattle in the first NFC game. Now I want to turn to the second NFC game, and that's the Vikings, who surprised, or at least certainly surprised me, in beating New Orleans in New Orleans. Kirk Cousins playing a great game finally in a big game. You know, he's been much maligned as a guy who really couldn't get it done in a big game, and the stats prove that out. But he did it all last week, surprisingly to me, down in the Super Bowl Superdome, 26-0 down in 26-20 down in the New Orleans Superdome. I thought that was a big upset, frankly. But give the Vikings credit. Their defense played well. Dalvin Cook ran very well. You know, Thielen was healthy and Dalvin Cook was healthy, and I thought that was the difference in the game. Kamara could not run against the Vikings defense, and I thought he'd be able to, but he wasn't. So now the Vikings, with their defense and their running game, you know, they say defense and running game travels. Now they travel to the 49ers, but I think this is certainly the best team in the NFC and possibly the best team in the NFL. They have George Kittle, who's the best tight end in football. Garoppolo has become a top NFL quarterback, coming back from that injury from last year. I think they're just going to be too much at home. Now there, I'm just looking at the point spread. They're a 7-point favorite, the 49ers. I kind of like them because I think they can open it up against the Vikings. And the most important thing is the 49ers have 3 starters who might be totally coming back from injury. If all 3 of them can play and be effective, you know, Quan Alexander is the J.J. Watt of the 49ers. He tore his pectoral muscle. You know, J.J. Watt came back last week and was great in that playoff game for the Texans. So Quan Alexander is coming back this week. And if he can do the same thing for the 49ers, that'll be a huge lift. Dee Ford, you know, from the Chiefs last year, but he's a really good pass rusher. And he's on the 49ers, and he's coming back. And also one other guy, Tart, the safety, he's also going to play. So if those 3 guys can show up on the defense, their defense was great when those 3 guys were healthy and playing. The end of the year when they were out, 2 or 3 of them were out for a bunch of games, the defense was not good for the 49ers. They were a lockdown defense earlier in the year. So they get all those guys back if they can play effectively. Always a big question mark whether they can or can't. But if they can, I think San Francisco is going to easily beat the Minnesota Vikings. But again, the Vikings, Thielen had an ankle injury earlier this week, but they say he's going to be fine. I don't think they're going to have much of a running game. So I think this is the 49ers game to win and possibly win relatively easy. So I like the 49ers over the Vikings in the other NFC game this week. Those are your 2 NFC games. We'll be back with an AFC video shortly as well. This is Steve Kallas speaking of sports. We'll see you the next time.